The following program is furnished by K1 International, LLC, and is responsible for its content. Now, from the 5th floor Cumulus Studios in downtown Dallas, it's time for Inside Real Estate. Here's your host, Michael Kruizinga.
Good morning, Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Welcome to Inside Real Estate, sports, entertainment, politics, all that good stuff. Welcome to your Sunday morning. It's August 14th, and hope you're having a great week out there. It was a wild and crazy week for us here in real estate and sports, entertainment, and all that stuff, and we're glad you're with us. And, we had a great interview last week. I was really stoked about this interview last week. We had Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters on the show. Fox News contributor, military strategist, and, of course, best-selling author. The Damned of Petersburg is his latest book, and we talked to him last week. And we're going to try to play you a little bit of that interview later in the show if we can get to it. But if not, I'd highly recommend hitting our archive page and listening to that interview. We talked about Turkey, and, Turkey is widely being not talked about in the media, and the Lieutenant Colonel gave us some great information and great background on Turkey and the coup that occurred in Turkey. So I would highly recommend checking that out. And then, of course, we talked about his latest book. So we're going to try to play a little bit of that later in the show if we can, if we have time. But, hey, it's on our archive page. Go to InsideRealEstateRadio.com, and you can catch up with that. Also, the week before that, another great interview. We had Dinesh D'Souza on the show. We talked about Hillary's America, his books, Hillary's America, and the documentary, of course, and also Stealing America. So I had an amazing interview, just really good information. We posed a lot of questions that have not really been posed, and so highly recommend checking that out as well. Of course, you can hit that on the InsideRealEstateRadio.com website and go into the archive page. And by the way, of course, we're here to help you with all your real estate needs, your mortgage needs, your insurance needs, and all your home improvement needs with myself and all of our partners of the show. So we help you think about us when you're thinking about, buying or selling or anything related to real estate or refinance, mortgage, insurance, etc. Today on the show, we are going to have, of course, Richard Tonica from Goosehead Insurance and Terry Wagner over at Supreme Lending. And we're going to do a little home improvement talk if we've got time today as well. So it's going to be a great show for you. But, folks, you got to be really careful out there, on who you're choosing to work with in your life. Whether it's a contractor coming out to your house to do some work, whether it's a loan officer to refinance your home, whether it's a loan officer to purchase a home, or whether it's a real estate agent. Because I'll be honest, folks, there's a lot of bad people out there, and a lot of bad people, and a lot of good people that do bad jobs, that just aren't very good at their job. And there's a new crop of people coming out all the time, into the industry and the various pieces of the real estate industries. And, they don't quite know what they're doing yet. So I would just be very careful out there. And, we went and looked at a contractor to come on the show, to be a partner of the show recently. Really just didn't like the way they operated. And so we passed on them. We're not going to make them part of the show. So we're not going to bring people to you, folks, that are not up to speed and excellent in their professions and good and honest and have integrity. And we hope you recognize that. And if you do need some help in a particular area and somebody on our show, one of our partners can help you, we would love for them to help you. And trust me, you'll be happy that you went with them. Folks, we're up against a break, so we're going to take a short break, then we're going to come on back. Hey, folks, Inside Real Estate, Mike Kruizinga, website InsideRealEstateRadio.com. Come on back in a few.
Hi, this is John B. Wells. It's a big world out there, and an even bigger universe. So, what interests you? From the conventional to the conspiratorial, from the wonderful to the weird, from the sublime to the silly, we'll talk about all of it, and between all of us, we'll get a glimpse of the truth. Be on board ARC Midnight, this Saturday night at 10 on 570 KLIS.
They really are. I saw them, I did. I did. I showed them I really did.
Allen Economic Development Corporation is proud to sponsor the 9th edition of the Cumulus Putting Texans Back to Work Job Fair at the Allen Event Center on September 28th, presented in part by Resource One Credit Union. With over 2,500 highly qualified job seekers, 5 dozen employer booths, and promotion from all 7 Cumulus radio stations, this is the hiring event of the fall. Employer booth space is limited. Visit PuttingTexansBackToWork.com today for more information or to buy your booth. That's PuttingTexansBackToWork.com or call 972-708-4251 to learn more.
The Richard Tonica Insurance Agency in Arlington has nearly unlimited resources when it comes to getting you the best insurance rates and policies for home, auto, and more. As part of the Goosehead Insurance brand, you, the consumer, have the power of choice through the Richard Tonica Insurance Agency Network. Richard can quote over 20 A-rated companies to find the best fit for you, the best policy at the best price. Call Richard today at 817-286-2002. It's the Richard Tonica Goosehead Insurance Agency, 817-286-2002. Hey, folks, we are back. It's Inside Real Estate with Mike Kruizinga here, your host and local DFW area realtor. Time for a home improvement and flooring segment with our favorite friend in flooring over at Ideal Floors, website idealfloors.com. Owner Kevin Hamus, and his cell phone number 214-789-0422. What owner of any other company gives you his cell phone number? There it is right there, 214-789-0422. And so we're going to talk about rentals today because, you know, we've got a lot of investors and a lot of new investors that are, you know, maybe they just own their home and they're starting to invest in real estate. And, you know, they always want to watch their costs and what's the best strategy, because often you have to replace flooring when a renter, you know, vacates. And so what's the best strategy for handling the rental in that sense? And so we're going to get into that. And Kevin, how are we doing today?
Doing well. Doing really well. Just another day, another dollar.
Another day, another penny, hopefully,
penny,
we make,
penny,
you know.
Yeah, really.
Since it seems like we always work for free in this industry.
Yeah.
But, well, let's talk about that. And what is the best strategy? I know, you know, you're an investor as well. You know, I am too. And so we're always trying to do the best thing, you know, not only take care of our renters, you know, but we also, you know, want to watch our bottom line and, you know, try to make a little dollar here and there too. So.
Oh yeah. In rentals, you know, as everybody knows, you know, it's your expenses that can kill you on a rental.
Right.
So what you want to try and do is keep your expenses down as much as possible. And one way is to put in the right flooring into the house.
Right.
I bought my first house in 1981, so I've actually done this for 35 years. So I'm not only a flooring guy, like you said before, I am an investor.
So you know a little something about it.
I know a little bit. I've done buy and hold. I've done buy and flip. I've done pretty much most everything. So
right.
Just haven't got into apartments. That's about the only thing. That's
a whole nother beast.
Yeah, that's a whole nother beast. Well, first of all, a lot probably depends on where your property's at. You know,
Sure.
Is it in a low income area? You know, where you have to, you know, if you're replacing carpeting, you know, like every tenant or every other tenant, if you feel like you can only afford carpet, you know, there's carpet out there now that's called, it's a solution dyed polyester carpet. And what that is, it's carpet that the color of the yarn is made in the yarn when it's manufactured. So, and it's basically made out of oil. So it's plastic. And it's pretty much impossible to stain.
Okay.
So, you know, in lower rental units, you end up, the carpet ends up getting ruined before it actually wears out. So, you know, if you put this carpet in, it's got, you can put bleach on it, fingernail polish remover, coffee, Kool-Aid. None of that will affect the color of the carpet, so you can always get that out.
Okay.
You know, you'll still have soiling, but that can clean out, you know, eventually.
Is this a really good product, you know, for pets?
Not necessarily for pets. I mean, it might from pets from the standpoint of it may not stain the carpet,
mm-hmm.
but as far as pets from, you know, the urine and any other thing like that, I mean, no carpet's going to resolve that.
Hold up to that.
The best thing you can do with pets is not rent to pets.
Exactly.
But the other problem, most pets that are the problem are pets you didn't rent to.
Right.
They were brought in after you rented the property.
Exactly. And you just don't know about it.
Right. But that's definitely one thing that can ruin carpet very easily.
Sure.
So a lot of investors today are going with a new product called vinyl plank. It's a wood-looking plank. It's most of them are 6 inches wide, 36 inches long, and when you put it down, it looks really, really good. The great thing about vinyl plank is because it's made of all vinyl, it's water resistant. You can't damage it with water.
Right.
Carpet can be ruined with water. Laminate can be swollen with water. Wood can be ruined with water. But the one thing about vinyl plank, it's all vinyl, so water can't affect it. So a lot of people, in fact, the majority of investors today are going to vinyl plank in their lower income rental units. And when I say lower income, I really mean like they're putting it in probably $150,000 down.
Right.
They're putting in vinyl plank. So that way, once it'll generally initially cost you maybe about double what carpet would, but it's going to last a long time. And it's very difficult to ruin. So.
Yeah. Whereas, if you've got, and most of the time people are renting and they're staying in the property for a couple, 2-3 years, especially because it's hard to find anything good. But, when you do have somebody leaving every 1 or 2 years, and more than likely you will replace the carpet if you were using carpet. And a lot of people like to go with carpet because it is cheaper than anything else. But like you're saying, if you go with the vinyl planks, maybe you can go 3 or 4 renters with that.
Right.
Or even longer.
Yeah.
Because like you say, you can almost just bring the hose in and wash it down.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
It's water resistant.
Well, and the other thing is that, and speaking to the choir here, but the number one thing you can do with rental units is rent to the right person.
Right.
You can have some people that'll be there forever, and it really doesn't matter what you put in. You'll have some people that'll move in, you think they're going to be great, and they end up just destroying the place.
Trashing it. Yeah.
So, but if you have a decent renter, vinyl plank is going to last a long time. Even though carpet may do okay, vinyl plank's going to do a lot better.
A lot better. Yeah. Well, and honestly, it looks good. The product has come so far. It really is a great looking product, actually.
Oh, it is.
In so many cases, it almost, looks a lot better than a lot of the laminate woods.
Right.
Except for hardwood. Nothing's going to look that good. But it's a really nice looking product.
And if you get into the higher end rental properties, 150, 200,000 or higher, probably going with a laminate, if it's going to be a rental.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to sell the house, you might want to go with an engineered, but if you're going to rent it, you might want to go with a laminate, just because laminate is so much more durable than engineered, because it's a very hard product. It has a very hard surface, so it's very difficult to damage it.
Mm-hmm.
It can be scratched, but it's very difficult to be scratched. But wood is a natural product, so you can stain it, you can scratch it, you can damage it. So more of a prestigious product, but if you're looking at rental, you really probably don't ever want to go in with wood unless you're into a super high end that really just pretty much demands that you put wood in.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Just different type of clientele. With the vinyl, so, let's say they got a big dog, maybe you don't have to worry about them scratching that particular type of product.
Right. You really don't. The only thing that there are different qualities of vinyl plank. The cheapest or the least expensive vinyl plank is made of a recycled material, and it just has a PVC finish on top. That can be scratched. Easier than a pure product, virgin product, and if it has a polyurethane finish on it, because it's a lot harder.
Okay.
So if I would recommend going with a little bit higher grade if you're going to be having this property for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So then it would just even last longer.
Yeah. Let me just a question off of flooring for a second, just for investors. What is your strategy as far as, the security deposit and a pet deposit? Obviously, as landlords, maybe we don't want, renters that have pets, because they just do damage to not only flooring, but the walls and to just anything and everything, particularly cats, because they can get into everything.
Right.
But, so many times a renter will just not tell you, and you find out when they move out, or maybe at an inspection at some point along the way. should we just assume they're lying and charge them the pet deposit or increase the security deposit to manage that? I mean, what's your strategy with that?
Well, I think, if you can increase the security deposit, that would be great but again, the market's going to tell you what you can do. I mean, if you're competing with somebody down the street that, it's first month rent and half of the month deposit or month deposit, that's one thing. And if you're trying to get 2 months deposit, you may be difficult to rent that.
Right.
The other thing is, it's almost like it's impossible to charge a pet deposit if they don't have a pet.
Yeah.
Say we're going to charge you this deposit in case you get a pet, right? So, I mean, it's just
a liar's deposit.
Yeah, really.
You're going to lie to me. You probably smoke and you probably have a pet.
Right. And we just don't trust you, so we want more money.
Exactly. So. Well, with the rent demand being the way it is and rental properties even starting to be in high demand, it's something for the landlords to think about out there, that they may be a little bit getting into a little bit more of the driver's seat, kind of like the sellers are a little bit more in the driver's seat with our sellers market, and maybe think about that a little bit more, with their renters. And of course, choosing the right renter is the big thing, but anybody can snowball you for sure.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Well, let's get back into the products a little bit more.
The one other thing I want to cover is there's grays are coming in again. Gray is like the new neutral.
Sure.
So we have an apartment complex that, they put gray vinyl plank in their living areas. They put gray carpet, a gray tone carpet in their bedrooms, and then they paint their walls light gray, and then they trim it out in white. And it just looks amazing.
Yeah.
So, if you're possibly thinking about being more contemporary, if you went that way, because, again, it's like you're almost like upscale, you're staying up with times and you're being more modern. So, you may consider that also when it comes to, doing a rental property.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we always, have been kind of taught over the years, kind of beiges, the very neutral colors. But you're right, the grays is a great neutral as well, whether it's, in flooring or paint, etc. Seen a lot of that. And of course, just beige, white, and gray.
Right.
Absolutely.
And also a lot of people are, the step up from all of this is really ceramic. A lot of, people may put ceramic in their kitchens or in their bathrooms, but ceramic is like the most expensive.
Yeah.
Just because of the labor intensity that's involved in ceramic. But that's another option. Ceramic, once you get it in, is pretty much indestructible.
Okay.
So
for the landlords out there, they really need to be thinking, I think a lot of them, especially the older ones, are just thinking, okay, just put in that cheap carpet again, put it in again. But they really need to be starting to think about that vinyl product, because it's going to be good for them, and they're not going to have to repeat this process every single renter.
Right, and that's just it. It's probably the question to ask yourself is how long I'm going to own this.
Yeah.
If I'm going to own this for 5 years, you might just go in with the carpet, and then when you get done, time to sell it, you go in and replace the flooring, and then you sell it. Mm-hmm. And if you plan on, I was talking to a lady last night, she plans on having the property for the rest of her life. Well, now you need to think, okay, what should I put in that'll last the rest of my life, so you don't have to do it. So,
yeah,
she's talking about, putting in vinyl plank.
Sure.
So a lot of it is how long you're going to own it and everything.
Okay. Well, and folks out there, if you're a landlord out there or thinking about investing at all, of course, the nice thing about talking to Kevin is he's got some advice for you, and because he's been a long-time landlord, but also he can take care of all of your flooring needs, of course. And phone number 214-789-0422, website idealfloors.com, idealfloors.com. And, of course, he's also got 5 showrooms here in the Metroplex, over 3.5 million square feet in stock. So it's always a great idea to just, stop on by one of the showroom floors and take a look at it live and in person. Of course, your sales staff can always come by their place as well.
Yes, we can.
And show them product as well. So, I think that about wraps up the rentals section.
Yeah.
And
that covers pretty much most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, another good segment, folks, with Kevin Hamus, owner of Ideal Floors. Folks, Inside Real Estate, folks, will be back in a few.
Rich is just a really, really, really good guy. The term good egg isn't enough to describe him. He's also certified organic and free range. Rich puts the cap back on everything. The toothpaste, the olive oil, the shampoo, everything. He lets his 10-year-old nephew beat him at virtual tennis, even though he can straight up slay his 10-year-old nephew in virtual tennis. When the toilet paper is running low, Rich replaces the roll on the actual holder, not just on the back of the toilet. Rich is texting and driving. Rich? No. What are you doing, Rich? I was just telling everyone how great you are. Texting and driving makes good people look bad. Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Do you know the difference between a business and a successful business? Excellent branding. You can increase your sales and branding recognition by attending the 1-hour free Cumulus Radio Branding Seminar, August 24th. You'll learn the 4 keys of branding, how to use trigger events to drive business, and how to market your business. You'll even get a free lunch. To join us, call 214-523-2760. That's 214-523-2760.
Folks, it's Mike the Realtor here from Inside Real Estate, and if you're not listing your property with me, bottom line is you're leaving money on the table. There are over 15,000 agents here in the DFW area, most of whom are part-time and do a few deals a year. Do you want to trust them to sell your home? I think not. Call Mike the Realtor, the radio realty expert from Inside Real Estate on 570 AM KLIF. Promise you will get to me direct. Go to InsideRealEstateRadio.com. Don't sell your home with just anyone. Go to InsideRealEstateRadio.com and connect with Mike the Realtor.
96.3 FM HD2 and 570 AM. 2 great places to keep up with your world with KLIF news and information.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
You've accidentally cut your daughter's bangs unevenly. Do you A, line things up a centimeter from her hairline?
Man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man.
No. Sweatbands are so hot right now. Everyone's wearing them. Like that basketball player and that other basketball player.
B, get spiritual.
Mom, where did all the mirrors go?
A reflection could never capture our true selves.
Huh?
Beauty is within.
C, look on the bright side.
Less time blow drying, more time texting.
Or D, show empathy.
Mom, you really don't have
Ta-da! Twinsies!
I kinda love it. As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org/TX. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Hey, folks, we are back. It's Inside Real Estate with Mike Kruizinga. InsideRealEstateRadio.com is the website. Hey, it's time to go into another informational segment about your foundations out there, all you homeowners and all you potential homeowners out there. We're going to talk foundation talk with our favorite folks over at PermaPeer. The website's permapeer.com. That's permapeer.com. Phone number is 214-637-1444 for all your foundation needs. Jared Benson is here live in studio. Jared, how we doing?
Doing good. Great. Thanks for having me on again this morning.
Good to talk to you again, and always learning new things from you. And so I'm wondering what we're going to learn today. I think we were going to talk a little bit about, when your home needs foundation repair and kind of how to go about that process. And so let's get into it.
That's right. Since foundation repair is such a big business here in DFW and North Texas in general, there are a lot of companies that do it, a whole lot of companies. Something that maybe we can talk about in another time is just, what do you have to do to be a foundation repair company? You might be surprised at the answer. So,
right.
Little teaser there for you for another show.
That's right. Exactly. Scary.
Yeah.
It is scary.
So when do you need foundation repair? Some companies will get the reputation, and I've heard people say it about companies, and they'll say, that company will put piers on a doghouse. So there's obviously people who don't do it the right way.
Right.
And sometimes that may be from a lack of training or a lack of understanding, even apart from people who are just going to try and sell something just to make a dollar. So
absolutely,
let's get into it. Now on another show, we've talked about sheetrock cracks, and that's kind of one of the first things people see when there may be an issue. And that's the way I like to say it. Just because you see some signs of stress doesn't mean you have a foundation problem.
Right.
They're just possible indicators. So one thing that people see a lot of are sheetrock cracks in the brick around the outside of the home, doors and windows that won't close the right way, or doors that swing open or they swing shut or they won't lock, or just cracks throughout the house, flooring that's maybe tiles popping or something like that.
Exactly.
So a lot of variety of different things you can see, and they're all possible indicators of foundation issues. And so all of our guys at PermaPier Foundation Repair are trained by licensed professional engineers on how to properly evaluate a foundation. And the way they train our guys, and I've sat in there and listened to them, and this is, the rare occasion that I look at a house too. This is what I take into account when I look at a house is 3 things need to be satisfied in order to recommend work for a house. The first one is what the engineer calls a propensity for further movement. Basically, is there a possibility that house is going to move more?
Right.
Well, as we've also talked about, there's clay in the soil here in North Texas, so that clay will move.
Yes.
So just about every house here in DFW, qualifies under check number 1.
Right. Just because of our geographic location.
Just because of geographical location, any house could possibly move, or most houses will say.
Right.
So, anybody could put a pier on a house if that was all you needed. Number 2 is that house, does it have a change in elevations? What I mean is that foundation exactly level, or is it a little bit off somewhere? Well, I don't know if you've ever tried to measure the floor in your house, but it's almost never exactly level. And I'm fairly confident I can say never.
Yes, I would agree.
It might be 1/10 of an inch off, but that's a change in elevations. So if that's where your knowledge stops, or that's where your justification stops, you can put a pier on almost every house here in DFW.
Sure.
But really, that's not a good place to stop, and I'll tell you why. Very, very smart mathematical people tend to plan and design the way homes are built, whether it's an architect or an engineer of some sort. They put all those plans together, and it all looks good on paper. But what happens when people go out there and actually start doing the work? Those guys aren't the ones pouring concrete. They're not the ones leveling the foundation. Who knows what the day was like, the weather, conditions, what those guys who did the work did the night before. Exactly. You never know exactly.
That's right. Human error.
Human error, yeah. So what you see a lot of times is that brand new foundations still have a variation in their levels. So that's not a good place to stop. And then the third thing, the kicker, really. That our engineers that we work with stress to our evaluators is you need to have a sign of stress. When I say sign of stress, that's all the things we talked about in the very beginning. It's a crack in the drywall, a crack in the brick, a door that's not opening or not shutting, or something like that. A sign of stress that goes along with that change in elevation, that correlates with it. So, if there's a small crack on the left side of the house and a change in elevation on the right side, that's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
It really needs to go together to where, it's pretty much common sense, Mm-hmm. Your house is down in one corner, and you also have some cracks indicating that portion of the house is falling down.
Right.
Then you're not saying, oh, well, there's a change in elevation. What you're saying is the house has moved since it was originally built.
Right.
And that's when you may need some remedial repairs or something like that.
Yeah, and so it's gonna, folks, if you're kind of listening to what Jared's saying here, this really goes to honesty. It goes to integrity of their company, whereas a lot of companies aren't going to go that far. As Jared said, we could probably put piers in every single house in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but that's not necessary. And so
absolutely,
it really is going to be obvious. So if you're, walking into the home, and let's say we walk towards a back bedroom, on the right-hand side, and you're going downhill, well, that's, we need to have some work done there. Or if you go off to the left of the property and the back side of the property in the kitchen, it just totally drops off. Yeah. Or maybe it's raised up. Maybe it's heaving.
Yeah. That happens too.
or maybe there's a big hump in the middle, and to the left and the right, the properties both go downhill. Those types of things, folks, are really going to be kind of obvious, and this is when you need the folks at PermaPeer to come up with a good, solid plan on how to attack, getting your foundation taken care of. So if you're listening, they're not looking to take advantage of you. They're going through all these extra steps to make sure you need the work. Because a lot of times, I've, gone into so many houses helping clients look at homes. How many times have I gone into a home that's had foundation work done and it didn't need to be done, and it's worse off after the foundation work?
Yeah, that definitely happens. We've seen homes that they put piers on a house that looked like it needed piers to an untrained eye, but in reality, it needed plumbing repairs. Mm-hmm. Well, because the foundation repair was done, then they tested the plumbing after the fact. Then they said, well, now we need to fix the plumbing. Well, because they then fixed the plumbing, it caused other issues, and they had to go back out and put more piers on that house. Right. When in reality, if they would have just fixed the plumbing to begin with, they would have been okay. That's really another reason you want to work with people who are experienced and well-trained. And on a side note, I want to make sure people, one of the things I love hearing most when I come across a customer or read a review or something is, hey, they came out and listened to what I'm actually going through, or my life stage, or my scenario, and they told me that, maybe my house kind of needed a couple of piers. It really wasn't important for me to do right now. Right. If you're in a home and you're going to be there for the next 10 years, and you've got a small little crack in one corner of the house, is it best to do repairs early? Yes, but it's not vital sometimes. However, if you're looking to sell your house and you have some cracks showing and there's some elevation changes and repairs are needed, it might behoove you to get that done before an appraiser comes in and calls it out and throws a wrench in that loan process.
Exactly.
So there are factors that come into play just in what your scenario is too.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. True, there may need to be some work done, but depending on what's going on with that homeowner, you're exactly right. Their position in life, are they selling? Are they not? How long do they plan to be there? What potential damage could be done to the house if the work is not done? Mm-hmm. Is it a spot where it's not going to hurt anything to get by a couple years? Or could it really... It needs the work done now so it doesn't do more damage to the rest of the property.
Or maybe some other stuff that the owner might be able to try on his own. Maybe if I water that portion of the yard well enough over a given period of time, maybe it'll come back on its own. Sometimes that helps, sometimes it won't. But there's some other recommendations too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, folks, hopefully you've been listening to this, because this just really speaks to the absolute amazing integrity and honesty of PermaPeer. And so if you think you may need foundation repair out there, or even if you've had foundation repair done and maybe you need more, and plenty of homes out there have had foundation repair done a few times, and maybe it wasn't done the first time, or they needed it in more areas of the home in the future, we need to give PermaPeer a call. Folks, the website's permapeer.com. The website again, permapeer.com, and the phone number 214-637-1444. We've been talking with Jared Benson over at PermaPeer. Folks, another great foundation segment. It's Inside Real Estate, folks. We're going to be back in a second.
It only takes a minute to find out if you may have prediabetes, and you can do it at doihaveprediabetes.org. But you're probably not going to. Nope. I'm sure you've got a perfectly good excuse. Kids, work. I get it. You're busy. So what better time than now? Let's begin. Raise one finger if you're a man. Ladies, none yet. Oh, count in your head if you're driving. Now, 3 more fingers for everyone over 60, 2 over 50, 1 over 40, 1 more if you're not physically active, another finger if anyone in your family has type 2 diabetes, another if you've got high blood pressure. If you're overweight, raise another finger, 2 if you're very overweight, and 3 if you're really overweight. You've just taken the world's first audio prediabetes test. And if you're holding up 5 or more fingers, visit doihaveprediabetes.org or talk to your doctor. There's no excuse, because prediabetes can be reversed.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners. Living in the DFW area, expansive clay soil and extreme weather conditions play havoc on homes' foundation. But thankfully, you can turn to Perma-Pure Foundation Repair of Texas, who has successfully repaired over 20,000 properties and counting in the DFW area. With the most trusted, tried and true foundation repair methods, trust the professional staff of Perma-Pure Foundation Repair to take care of your property, and most repairs are backed by a lifetime transferable warranty. Mention Inside Real Estate Radio when calling Perma-Pure at 214-637-1444 or when booking online at permapure.com for your Inside Real Estate Radio discount.
Far from the shores of home, two African-American U.S. Army privates fight for their lives on the battlefronts of World War II. The first Black war correspondents fight to cover the perspective of the black soldier. The novel A Private War weaves all this and more into an epic World War II era story of friendship, conflict, religion, and redemption. Get a copy of Private War, a novel by Perry Cockrell today, now available on Amazon.com. And tune in regularly to Inside Real Estate Sundays, 8 to 9 a.m. to hear Perry Cockrell, attorney at law, as he provides expert analysis of the latest and greatest in legal news. With over 3.5 million square feet and 5 DFW locations, Ideal Floors has you covered for all your flooring needs. Whether you're looking for carpet, tile, laminate, wood, or vinyl plank, Ideal Floors has you covered. And with their price match guarantee and their 100% satisfaction guarantee, they are the absolute best in DFW for all your flooring needs. Call Kevin Hamus, the owner of Ideal Floors, at 214-789-0422 or go to idealfloors.com for all your flooring needs. Hey, folks, we are back. It's Inside Real Estate with Mike Kruizinga. Time for another mortgage segment with our resident expert in all things mortgage, Terry Wagner over at Supreme Lending. Terry, how's it going?
Good morning, Mike. I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm excellent. And,
awesome.
Of course, by the way, folks, anytime you want to reach Terry, TerryWagner.com is the website, and her direct line, 469-644-4818. And so what are we going to get into today?
How about that, Mike? I kind of want to... I give out my cell phone number.
That's true. Yes, that is your cell phone number. So,
pretty awesome.
And that is
and
awesome.
I answer it.
And
That's
you do
even better.
That's
even better.
That's right.
So call.
So when you're in the car, when you're at the grocery store, whatever it is, you're going to answer the phone.
That's right. I cannot tell you the number of times I've been at the grocery store and I just have to pull over.
That's right, yeah.
Just park my cart.
Park the cart.
Take care of business.
That's right.
Go on about business.
Yeah,
all right.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into some mortgage talk here and get the folks some good info.
Okay, so today I thought we would talk about debt-to-income calculations. Folks probably have heard over and over and over us talk about debt-to-income ratio, or DTI. Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What all is included in that calculation, and why is it such a big deal to your mortgage loan? Well, it's a big deal to your mortgage loan because it tells our underwriter what your debt is versus as it compares to your income. And we calculate all of your debt. And some folks tend to forget some of their debt that they may have. Right. So I kind of wanted to go over what's all included in that so that so that everybody will have a little bit better understanding on what we mean when we say your debt to income ratio on a conventional loan can't exceed 45%.
Right.
Okay.
And we're, and this is perfect because we're such a debt-ridden society.
Yes.
And we do forget about a lot of the debt we have.
Yes, we do.
This is actually just a good process for people to think about in general.
Right. Yes.
To be
even
honest,
if you're not buying a house, you need to consider your debt ratio.
That's right. You really should.
Yeah. If you're having a problem paying everything, your debt ratio may be too high.
Too high. Yeah, exactly.
So we've talked about before how we calculate income, so I won't go into that. But the debt ratio does deal just exactly with how much debt you have as it relates to what your qualifying income is. And so things that are included in your monthly expenses, obviously any mortgage payments that you have, and within that mortgage payment, you don't have just the principal and interest. You have the taxes and the insurance and the mortgage insurance, if that applies,
right?
And HOA dues, if that applies. There's some other, sometimes there's co-op maintenance fees,
yeah,
all kinds of other fees that can be added into. So we have to make sure we have all of those accurate as well.
And they all add up.
Right. So then within your debt ratio, we've got your monthly housing payment, your installment payments. Typically, and this kind of depends on the payment itself, if you owe more than 10 monthly payments on an installment loan. So you bought some jewelry at a jewelry store and you've got 9 payments left and your monthly payment on that is $65 a month. we probably won't have to count that in your debt ratio. But same thing if you have a car payment and you have 9 payments left on it and your car payment is $650 a month, we are going to count that.
Right.
Because that's going to be significant as you begin your new mortgage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So we kind of have to take a look at that process and what all is left there.
Okay.
Then obviously any auto loans that you have, any installment debts, any revolving debt. Now, we have talked about before paying off debt to qualify for a mortgage. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of new. If you pay off before, we've always had to pay off a debt so that we can get the debt ratio down where we need it to be. But we've always required the borrower to close that account, close that credit card, and they don't like doing that.
Right.
Well, now we don't have to. As long as we can show it's a zero balance,
okay,
they're not required to close that credit card.
Good.
Okay.
I like that because, sometimes when you close that account, particularly if it's like one of those golden accounts that you've had over maybe 6-7 years,
right?
That's a good qualifying base on your credit report. It's a bummer to have to close that, and sometimes it goes negative on your credit report.
It sure can. So we don't have to do that anymore.
That's
a good thing.
I like that.
Then other things that can affect that is, what about those pesky student loans?
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody, I'm going to say probably 60 to 70% of the credit bureaus that I pull have student loans.
Right.
We should spend a whole segment talking about student loans.
Yeah.
But
easily.
Yeah. But student loans, if they are in deferment, we used to not have to count them on FHA loans, but we do now. Regardless of the loan type, if you have a student loan, even if they're in deferment, we still have to count that payment in your debt-to-income ratio.
Okay.
Well, what if there's no payment listed? We can do one of two things. Have the borrower call the student loan company that's servicing the loan and have them send us something in writing stating what that proposed payment is going to be, that loan payment's going to be. If they can't get anything, we have to take 1% of the outstanding balance. Sometimes that can be kind of hefty.
Right.
Most of the time, we're better off if we can get that actual payment from the student loan company, from the servicer. Because, they've got lots of really cool programs to put these folks on where they have graduated payments, and I've had some that have a zero payment.
Mm-hmm.
So if we get something from the student loan service provider that shows the student loan anticipated payment is zero, I can use zero.
Perfect.
Okay? So that's usually our better way to go.
Yeah. So there is a way around it, but in some cases, with this being that way now, I mean, it may push some of these buyers' time frame down the line.
Yes, I have had that happen over
until
the last few months.
Making significantly more income.
Right. Yeah. So we have to take all that into consideration.
Sure.
Then another thing that people seem to forget, and not even necessarily forget, but just don't know the process in which we have to calculate it, and that is rental income. We've talked about rental income before, in the fact that a lot of folks think, well, I have a positive cash flow, so it's all good. My mortgage payment on this rental property is $1,000, and I rent it for $1,500. I have a $500 a month positive cash flow. No, you don't, because you didn't report it that way on your tax returns.
Right.
So we have to take a look at the tax returns and all the expenses that you wrote off on your tax return and determine what your cash flow is from that property. That has to go in our debt ratio as well. Okay?
Boo.
Yeah, I know it. I know.
I don't like that one.
I know. Okay, so here's one you'll like, though. All right, so let's say you co-sign on a car for your son.
Bad idea.
A bad idea. Don't ever do that, by the way. But let's say you've already done it.
All right.
But your son, responsible person, he's making the car payments. He's making them directly to the auto finance company out of his account, and it's a joint contract. That's the important part. If you have a contract written for the purchase of that automobile that has your name and the other party's name, and you can prove the other party has made the last 12 monthly payments, we don't have to include that in the debt ratio.
Okay.
Okay? That's the key part, though. You can't just buy it for him and let him pay it. His name has to be on that contract as well.
Okay.
Okay? And he can't He can. It's a few more hoops for us to jump through. Best if he just pays directly. But if he's giving you the money so that you know for sure that it's getting paid on a timely manner, which is exactly what I would do, he can give you the money, have it in a traceable source. Have him write you a check or get you a money order and make a copy of it. And it's the same amount every month that you are depositing into your account and then immediately turning around and making the payment for the exact same amount. That's traceable. That's something we can show an underwriter. Okay.
And it has to be the exact dollar figure.
Yeah. So, or more. If the payment's $562.38 and he wants to pay $565, as long as it's the same amount and we can reasonably prove to an underwriter that payment that you put in your account and then turned around and made the payment. If it's reasonable, we can pass that on to the underwriter.
Okay. Very good.
All right. Let's see what else. Schedule C losses. So if we've got self-employed borrowers that have Schedule C losses on their tax returns, we have to include that in the debt-to-income ratio. There are some calculations that we can do on the Schedule C to kind of add some stuff back in and take it back out, and we have a whole formula that we have to do for that. But if you've got Schedule C income or loss on your tax returns, we have to take that into consideration.
Sure.
Okay. If you, let's see what else. I think that's all the notes that I've taken. But yeah. So we just have to basically looking at your tax returns. That is the most important thing. Looking at the tax returns, looking at your paycheck stubs. Oh, I know what else I forgot. I knew there was something else. Child support.
Yes.
That's
a big one.
Yes, that's a big one. So if you are making application with a mortgage lender, do not forget to tell them you pay child support. That's a big one, and that can really come back and bite you.
Yeah, because it is going to be found.
Right.
So, it's just going to ruin the deal down the line if you don't tell us up front.
Right.
And that reminds me of a funny story I had last week. I had a gentleman call me, makes really good money, had a really good credit score. Man, I thought this call was going really good. Hey, this is a potential good buyer. We can get him out there going.
Right.
I asked him about, the wife, is he married, etc. Well, yes and no. He has an ex-wife, but is actually technically still the wife. They've been split up for 9 years.
Oh, my goodness.
He is paying child support, but not through the system. He's paying it on the side. And the new wife, who's, I guess, not technically a wife yet.
Oh, wow. This is getting fun.
Yeah, is just a housewife, so we can't use her to buy the house.
Right.
So, it's one of those stories where, it was going really well, and then all of a sudden went totally downhill. Well, here's a thought. You need to get divorced, and you're going to need to deal with things so that maybe at some point you can buy a house, because right now his only option is renting.
Right. And let me tell you how an underwriter's going to find that, Mike, because you just got through saying it's going to be found.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is being done completely off the books, but he has to take that money out of his checking account every month.
Yep.
Probably at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to see the last 2 months' bank statements. And when an underwriter sees that on the 15th of those 2 months he paid someone $900, what is this for?
Yeah, where's that going?
Where's it going?
What's going on there?
So it will be found, and that's part of the reason, not the only reason, but part of the reason why that's part of the documentation that we have to have is the bank statements, just so we can see what are you paying on a consistent basis out of your account, so that we can determine if we need to add something to the debt ratio.
Right. An important thing for folks to remember is look, since the 2008 crash, there's a lot more restrictions. Things are kind of, in some cases they're opening up a little bit, but in some cases they're tightening up a little bit. But at the end of the day, since it's not pre-2008, everybody just needs to kind of have their ducks in a row. And but the main thing is, call Terry. We'll walk you through everything and take care of, what you need to do with your debt. Maybe you need to pay off a credit card here or pay off something there. The good thing is you don't have to close it now.
Right.
And, we'll get you all squared away and get you in the position where you can buy a house, and we'll get you taken care of.
Right. And we've talked about this too. Sometimes when you call those mortgage lenders that are online they're not taking a complete application.
Not at all.
And it is so important to take, we just had our office meeting about that yesterday. It is so important for us as loan officers to take a full and complete loan application to eliminate or minimize any issues that might come up later in the process.
Right.
Because they certainly can.
Yeah. I mean, trust me, folks, you don't want to go and just do something online or call one of those random 800 numbers. Terry's right here in the DFW area. She wants to take care of you. She's well aware of everything going on here in the DFW market and Texas real estate. And, why wouldn't you want to talk to somebody that's here and local and that's going to go through the process of figuring everything out for you, whereas you're just going to get a quick, 1 second, 2 second answer from somebody on an 800 line somewhere else in some other city and some other state, and you're not going to get the information that you need.
Right. So
highly recommend give Terry a call. Her direct line, by the way, this is her cell phone number, 469-644-4818. And, of course, the website, terrywagner.com, terrywagner.com. And anything else we got? Parting words?
Since we're using a new website.
Yes.
Terry Waggoner, like the Waggoner Ranch.
Correct.
Waggoner.
Yes. Waggoner.
Waggoner.
Terry Waggoner.
There you go.
There you go. TerryWagner.com. Folks, we've had another great mortgage segment. Hey, folks, Inside Real Estate, Mike Kruizinga. Come on back in a few. Attention real estate agents. The Snap platform, that's Snap, S-N-A-P-P, Snap, allows real estate agents to have their own branded and native mobile app available for download in both Apple and Android formats. It's not a matter of if or when, folks. The mobile revolution is here. If you aren't catering to it, you're sinking fast. It's a proven fact that people use mobile apps 66% more than mobile websites or desktop browsers, and that percentage increases even more when you're looking at home buyers that are in the searching process. Picture this. You've got a great conversation with a potential home buyer who hasn't yet agreed to work with you exclusively. You don't have your own branded mobile app yet, so you give the prospect your website, and they're going to use that when they want to search for available properties. The next day, that potential client is out and about, and they want to see what's for sale nearby. They aren't using their laptop. They are on their mobile devices. They visit your website, only to realize it's not a user-friendly mobile site as some of the real estate apps they've already tried. Your website may even offer that mobile version, but it lacks vital GPS functionality and other features that need to be available to the home buyer when they're looking in the mobile process. Being left with no other option, the person turns to a third-party advertising app such as Zillow or Trulia. They find a property they like and end up connecting with another agent through that app. End of story, end of opportunity. You just lost that potential client because you did not have a mobile app. The point is, having your own app is as crucial as having a website has been for years. Don't stop advertising with other apps because that can be an effective way to generate great leads. However, for any prospect with whom you're already interacting, whether it's a referral, a friend, a lead from a various lead source, your website, or anywhere else, do yourself and the home buyer a favor. Give them the mobile experience that they demand. Otherwise, they will find it somewhere else. Bottom line, you need your own app to sell more homes and to stay afloat in this crazy real estate world full of new technologies and apps. Snap makes it all easier and cheaper with their platform. Set up your real estate app today. Visit snaprealestate.com. That's Snap with 2 P's. Snaprealestate.com for all your real estate app needs. Folks, it's Mike Kruizinga here with Inside Real Estate Sports Entertainment on 570 AM KLIF. Did you know that virtually all of us will experience a fall in the bathtub at some point in our life? Well, statistically, it's true, and as we get older, a fall in the bathtub can spell disaster, as we just can't recover the same as we did in our younger years. Don't let something as silly and preventable as a bathtub fall put an end to all your special plans you have lined up for your golden years. Invest in a Hydrojet walk-in bathtub. Made in the USA and with the lowest step in the industry, Hydrojet walk-in tubs has your best interest at heart. With no commission sales staff or huge warehouse overhead, they build and sell direct to you, saving you thousands of dollars over their competitors. Call Randy, my friend and owner of Hydrojet Walk-In Tubs at 855-980-8827 or go to hydrojetwalkintubs.com. You'll be able to speak with Randy directly, and make sure to mention you heard about it on the radio. And for you veterans out there, there's a grant available for you to cover the majority of the cost of a walk-in tub, making it darn near free. Call Randy at 855-980-8827 or go to hydrojetwalkintubs.com today. today. When it comes to your mortgage and refinance needs, trust Terry Wagner, our resident mortgage expert on Inside Real Estate Radio. With a wide range of financing options and competitive interest rates, you can trust Terry for a fast and reliable loan process with superior service. Go to terrywagner.com or 469-644-4818 today. Supreme Lending is an equal housing lender. NMLS ID number 207089, 6730 Horizon Road, Suite B, Heath, Texas, 75032. SML Mortgage Banker Registration, Residential Mortgage Loan Originator.
We first opened about 10 years ago. We were small, just a few of us, but it was exciting. I always dreamt of having my own business. It was kind of slow at first, but things started picking up. We had big plans, but in our wildest dreams, we never thought we'd have this much work. Yeah, with so many businesses caught off guard by the storm, Reed Waste Management has never been busier.
What will become of your business after a disaster? Nearly 2/3 of businesses aren't prepared for an emergency, and 40% of businesses that experience a disaster never recover. Make an emergency plan now, before it's too late. For a free online tool that helps you develop an emergency plan to keep your business up and running should disaster strike, visit ready.gov/business. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the American Red Cross, and the Ad Council.
Juice, Mom! Juice, juice, juice! Mommy, why are we going to the store? Mom, I want juice! Mom! Juice, juice, juice! Mommy! Juice, juice, Mom! Juice, juice.
Your child will have different needs at different stages of life, and that includes the car seat. That's right, the car seat. A car seat isn't one size fits all. You have to have the right seat based on your child's age, weight, and height. See, car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. But there's a website that gives you all the information you need. safercar.gov/the-right-seat. You'll find out about types of seats, when to have a seat rear-facing, when to switch it to forward-facing, when it's time for a booster seat, and when it's time for your child to ride in the back seat with a seatbelt. Protect your child's future at every stage of life. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat. That's safercar.gov/the-right-seat.
A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Swimming and gymnastics are done. Now we see if the U.S. Olympics have the running skills to take home the gold. Live reports from Rio all next week on News and Information in the Morning with Dave and me on 570 KLIF.
The preceding program was furnished by K1 International, LLC, and is responsible for its content.
News and Information 570 AM.
96.3 FM HD2. KLIF Dallas. KSCS FM HD2 Fort Worth. KLIF.com.
A Cumulus station.